What is up, guys? It's your boy Yaniki here. I'm coming at you finally doing this video. I'm running late because reasons. We've been over this. I have a lot of stuff going on right now. Upside is some of it's being taken care of. Other downside is some of it is still in the air. But in general, you guys aren't here to hear my life story. You're here for me to discuss My Hero Academia content. So I'm going to get right into that real quick. First off, first page. The most important thing about the first page for me, ignoring the fact that Bakugo had the adeptness to kick his suitcase back with his foot to make sure he didn't fall too far away. Deku says to watch him, we'd have to be able to keep up, but one of the things that's important to note is that he says he was off and running before we even heard the sonic boom, which means that Endeavor is 100% confirmed above Mach speed. The other thing that's important about this feat, though, the thing that's very important is that Deku and them being able to track Mach speed opponents lets us know that their reaction speed or their ability to perceive, their perception being on that level, that they could potentially dodge attacks from range at least from those caliber of opponents. The important thing here is that My Hero Academia is a consistently low-balled universe, but with Endeavor showcasing this confirmed Mach speed feat or a post Mach speed feat, there's considerably less reason for people to like lowball the higher tiers in My Hero Academia now. With Endeavor having like a 5, I think he only has a 5 out of 5 in speed. So the idea of Hawks potentially being Mach speed plus isn't ridiculous. Edge Shot was actually also confirmed to be able to do his transformations, which lead to penetration attacks at above the speed of sound. So we have hard confirmation that at least three of the current top 3 active actually saving people heroes are all Mach plus fighters. So that's just something to like put into your head when you're like thinking of scaling these characters going forward for like your little crossovers or whatever. Another thing that I want to point out though is that Endeavor is not actually necessarily doing consistent flight. What he's doing is essentially flash stepping. He's like shunpoing around. If you look close, especially in the viz, you see the boom boom effect. Essentially, because Endeavor does not want to use consistent maintained flash fire, he's actually using a similar technique to Bakugo where he uses explosions of it for propulsion. And so that's why you notice like Bakugo specifically has like this angry reaction because he realizes it, but it's also why there's a tuft of flame and not a continuous streak. And especially when you look at the viz art, you can actually see Endeavor's individual feet as he's making these boom booms, and it's on the left side on page 2 in the third panel versus the right side where the previous explosion was. As you can see it, you can see boom boom as you naturally transition through the panel. And then he eventually takes a big step, jumps over the traffic and all that other stuff. So we cut into an office building. This is one of the things that we always do in My Hero to make sure it's grounded. We don't just talk about the way in which our characters are interacting with each other, or the main characters are interacting. We also focus in on the way that the events transpiring are actually impacting society. And so when last chapter we saw the characters straight up say, we don't know if the heroes will get here in time. We actually see this guy, or we actually see him in this chapter, sorry. My sense of time is a little off lately. He's like, we can't afford to wait for the heroes, which is important to note because it means that the Paranormal Liberation Front's ideology is spreading, whether it's directly through the reading of the Meta Liberation War or not. It no longer matters. This was stated at the start of this chapter, or arc actually, when we were doing the newscasting discussing Deka City. It was directly stated that some of the people were like, the heroes can't do everything. Some of us, need to protect ourselves. And the agenda that the MLA wanted has been pushed. As I told you guys, that no matter what happened in the outcome of My Villain Academia, the Meta Liberation Army's agenda would be able to be pushed. Some people would relate to it. Some people would think, I've got a strap on me. I've had one my entire life. I should start pulling it. And that actually goes back to something that was foreshadowed at the end of season 2, back in chapter 70, where Shigaraki essentially, goes on his rant, and he says, everybody's got a weapon, everybody's armed, anybody could go off at any time. And then we see that, like, as we progress through the story, more people are becoming more and more aware that they're armed, and not only through just the sheer realization that they could do it, but also the circumstances around them are making them think about whether or not they should do it. And that's, I think, an extremely important point that having this dialogue of whether or not we can, could, or should, or would is an extremely important one and necessary for the advancement of the storyline, but also a real world portrayal within the context of this verse. This is a conversation that would come up. It would come up repeatedly throughout the ages. Anytime crime rate got too high, especially in an area like Japan that endured a golden age with All Might, where they had, you know, like 10 plus years where they were sitting at a crime rate below, like at 6%, whereas most civilized like nations around the country that have adopted the Hero Society are still sitting at a 20% crime rate. We get more details on the glass manipulation. One of the things that I think is worth pointing out is that it seems like the guy that said that, you know, they were getting attacked or whatever, I think in the last chapter I saw him with like phones on him or something. It was really weird. But as I go through the chapter again, because I just want to make sure, I always pull up the chapter when I'm like talking to you guys or doing these videos. A lot of people have questions about like the rants that the old man is going on, and I'm gonna be honest, it seems like he was already a known like kind of priest dude, or like someone who sits around preaching all the time, because somebody directly states that he's from the second ward, which means that he's a regular person in the area, just not specifically those blocks. So what that can lead us to is we can know that like something is like especially suspicious about the situation due to the fact that he doesn't typically do these kinds of things. But also it's important to note that his eyes were whited out the entire time, plus he had like a nosebleed going, like there was something wrong, like he might have been having like a brain aneurysm or anything from this level of glass manipulation, even though he did have a named attack. Not every villain uses named attacks, so I like the fact that he has a move called Enlightened Fallen King. But also glass manipulation in of itself isn't a power that you see that often, and the fact that he seems to be able to manipulate its state of whether it's liquid or solid is actually a cool touch that you usually don't see often enough. It's kind of like when lava bending popped up in Legend of Korra. It was like, wow, yeah, this is totally a thing that could have been there forever, but we just got around to it. All right, cool. But that's the case. But we get one of the best, most superhero panels, like the cliche superhero I am here aesthetic out of Endeavor, where he, in fact, I might end up using a thumbnail that is like reminiscent to these things, but that Flash Fire Fist full page, you know, he comes in there, destroys the entire glass orb, you know, he establishes, all right, this is what you're doing. And I like the fact that Endeavor's like, this is my territory. Like, what are you doing acting like this when I am around? Because that's the kind of way Endeavor almost needs to talk, right? For what he's trying to do, for what society is asking for, they kind of do need a number one hero that is just like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, is this a game? Am I a joke to you? Also, small detail that I just love, especially like these things are way more obvious in Viz, so even if you are like a non-official reader, always read Viz just for the sake of seeing the art in better detail. Endeavor was still technically wearing his clothing as he like clashed into the glass sphere, blew it up, everything. Those pauldrons are some kind of nanotech that came out, but the suit itself, he was in cliche Superman fashion, just straight up wearing his super suit under regular clothing and just burned it away. Endeavor's got, you know, he's got bands, so I'm sure it's whatever. Like, he can afford to do that, but that's just another style point on his character, that he's actually like that focused on saving people and like taking down the villains that he'll burn away an outfit like that. Not even, nope, it's gone. It's kind of reminiscent of Overhaul when instead of taking the gloves off, he just disintegrates them after a while if he's mad enough. The old man starts panicking, running away, it seems like, but then he's like, oh no, he's coming. And we have, like, he had some stooges set up. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think that ignoring Bakugo and Midoriya catching up, ignoring the fact that, like, ignoring Bakugo and Midoriya being able to catch up, ignoring the fact that Hawks shows up, I don't think that the dude with a pole would have really mattered too much to Endeavor. I think it would have like hurt, like seeing them coming in and just did a big flaming explosion, and they would have like backed off because they would have caught on fire and been in a lot of pain. I don't think this was a good plan. It was a bold attempt, but I don't think it was a good plan. And We get Hawks teasing everybody. You know, he says, "Oh, I was a little faster," making fun of the trainees as usual. In typical Hawks fashion, you know, you gotta make fun of the kids a little. But he also makes fun of Endeavor, which just kind of plays into the. I genuinely view Hawks as kind of like the Endeavor fan that doesn't want to like come off as like a fanboy, so he's like borderline a tsundere towards him, where he's not owning up to the fact that, yeah, I was sitting there with an Endeavor doll as a kid. Yeah, you're the guy that I was looking at who, no matter what, you tried to surpass an insurmountable wall. Yeah, you're the guy that I respect the most. The man who's too fast respects the man who goes too far. Like, it checks out. But the fact that he makes it a point to joke around with Shoto, and we get, you know, the tracers from Detnerat directly drawn on the wing to make sure we can see them, even though it's important to note that that is a purely aesthetic thing. Endeavor cannot see that transceiver. It's directly stated that those are micro transceivers. The point of that in this scene is moreover to emphasize for us, the reader, that he's literally aiming a camera at Endeavor. Essentially, is what's happening there. Um, they we find out that like the Star Servant apparently blackmailed these people. We don't really know what's going on with him. He's talking about how the root cause is the shining light that beckons the dark. Obviously, he's saying that because of Endeavor, or he's signing. See, the interesting thing here is that the main way this has been interpreted is that the flames of Endeavor bring about the root cause of what is, you know, to come, the downfall of society. However, I think it's important to note that from a Meta Liberation Army standpoint, Shigaraki is kind of like the guiding light, the light that beckons destruction, the light that beckons the dark. Like, he is like the salvation of villains. So you could also see this as like Star Servant saying, just as well, that Shigaraki's destructive light invites demise, and that's what's actually happening here. But you could see also Endeavor as the setting sun on the Hero Society. The flame, like, you know, when Endeavor falls, the sun sets, Hero Society plunges into darkness. And so that could also be where Star Servant's words, you could look at that as leaning towards the end of this arc, because this is the Rise of the Villain saga. If we were to have this arc be like a 15, 20, you know, another My Villain Academia length arc, and Endeavor dies during this arc, and, you know, Shigaraki is basically on top now, especially because that would move Hawks into the number one hero position, but Hawks is already technically within the Para-Liberation Front, could lead to quite a disastrous, and like having Hawks essentially be the number one hero, but then sending him to take out Edgeshot is probably where that would go, which could lead to him fighting Conley Woods, which could lead to two of the top 10 heroes going down, depending on what the gap is between Hawks, Edgeshot, and Hawks and Conley Woods. I'm just saying, there's a lot of ways this can go really bad, and the sun and the light, you know, imagery could just be all set up for that. I really hope the audio is coming through really well. I haven't talked about the new microphone, but I'm hoping you guys liked my new microphone. All the test runs I've done with it made it, the audio seem pretty good. I think it came through on Silverstream last week, okay? But anyway, we have Hawks, you know, sitting here like, hey, have you read this book? This is one of the things that I like, is that he's going out of his way to not be, like, to be roundabout, because he has to be. But the thing that I like is that he's, you know, the internal monologue, Hawks is consistently shown to be a good person inside, even when he does these dark things, or when he's doing, and like in this case, he's trying to pass on information. And what I like about this is, like, Deku's like Meta Liberation War, Endeavor seems confused. But one of the things that's worth noting is that, like, as the conversation goes on, Endeavor's face goes from incredulous to skeptical. In the last close-up, he actually seems kind of like angry or concerned. And so the point of this, I'm thinking, is that Hawks is referencing the conversation, you know, back from the Pro Hero arc. I just want to make a world where the heroes will have time to kill. But the thing here is that directly based on the current legal system, based on the laws that they have within Japan right now in the My Hero Academia verse, if the citizens were to start using their quirks willy-nilly, the way the book suggests, it would technically generate more work for them, because they would have more arrest. So the whole reason why Hawks is essentially having him look at this book is because he's like, what are you talking about? Are you saying, like, this is what you want? Like, what do you mean? And so once he says that, imagine it at Endeavor, a world where we've got time to kill, something goes off and like, yeah, but indiscriminate quirk usage isn't guaranteed to lead to that. And so what's in this book that he really wants me to look at. It's more than likely, in theory, if Endeavor's intelligence is as high as it's claimed to be, that's the direction that Endeavor is likely to go in, where he's going to go, all right, he's going to take the book, and hopefully he can find the highlighted sections, get the code, find out what the Paranormal Liberation Front is doing, get that information down either to Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto. I don't know if that's exactly what Endeavor... That could be what ends up happening, actually. The man that's too fast for, like, you know, like in the some of the rough translations, they said he was too fast for his own good. And this one, he says he's too fast. He could still be ahead of the curve, and the sense that him rushing ahead and getting Endeavor this information early could lead to Endeavor dying, but the kids knowing at least, and them being able to do something about it. Whereas in the current situation, if maybe if he waited a bit longer, he could reassess like some power levels or something like that, and find a way to get better information or data on their opponents, because we don't know what's just like, we don't understand or even have like a full grasp on the level or the numbers of the people or where everybody is. And so the idea that Endeavor could potentially jump the gun, especially because Hawks has never seen Gaten in combat, more than likely. Hawks has never seen what Redestro's power is like. Hawks hasn't even actually seen that Shigaraki is now like leveling multiple city blocks at a time. The fact that Hawks doesn't have some of this data, he hasn't up close seen some of it, and we don't know what he's been given from the recordings. Like, we don't know when he was brought in. They very easily could have shown that footage, made it a point to like get that out in like media, but he doesn't, like, he might not have ever seen the original footage. He might not have seen that was twice summoning, you know, like thousands. In fact, you remember what he says, Deka City, that was you guys, wasn't it? What happened? But we don't know if he ever directly spoke to Adabi and got information on what happened in Deka City. So that's just another thing to like factor in when you're discussing whether or not like what Hawks was doing this chapter. But yeah, I'm gonna leave the video here. I think I covered most of the points of what you can glean from this chapter. Actually, one of the things I meant to mention also when I said that Endeavor wasn't flying is that there's actually a footstep also on the building. So he's definitely like kicking off of things and using like high speed jumps. But if anything, that kind of makes it more impressive to me, because instead of it being steady flight, it's just him kicking off walls and things like that, and basically like Mach speed pinballing himself to keep up with people. Also realize that if he had to go Mach speed to catch this old dude, or like to get to the old dude and the old dude was still able to go, the old dude himself might also be Mach speed, which is kind of nuts to think about. But yeah, anyway, so you guys have a wonderful day. I'm gonna try to get back onto a more consistent upload schedule. I think I'll be able to upload Sunday at a reasonable time, closer to like 5-6 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's the hope anyway. I've just got a lot of stuff going on and different situations, but again, I hope you guys are enjoying the current arc. Leave comments below if you have any questions, concerns, if you guys just, or any suggestions. I do have I am still planning on finishing the Deku video series and the other ones. It's just that getting a new apartment and all these other things is taking priority. So for like October, I don't want to say more than likely for October it'll be most like just chapter reviews and breakdowns, but as long as that actually gets handled, once November rolls around, I should have like my apartment situation completely handled, in a new one, better space for recording, so the audio will come through better, and more consistent uploads. I'll have like less in-house distraction, because right now I have roommates, and that's part of what like affects whether or not I upload or what time I try to do videos, because there's a lot of people home, or there's going to be coming and going, or I know there's a high traffic time. I'm just not going to do the video then, because then I'm just going to get stuck restarting, or trying to like go through and edit out the sounds of doors slamming and people going, or dogs moving, and all kinds of other stuff. So yeah, that's what's going on this side. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening, night, life, if you've never come back to another video, whatever. Enjoy yourself. Have a plus ultra day.